are streaming on DLive, God bless you, and on Facebook and on YouTube. So, hey, thanks for tuning in, folks. If you're watching an archive version, then please, hey, there you go. That's me. If you're on DLive, so if you're watching an archive version, you might want to fast forward by about 11 minutes when we kick off. Always start streaming a bit early for technical reasons, get bums on seats, and what have you. Well, actually, for those two reasons. So anyway, yes, thanks for turning up. And it's going to be interesting tonight. We're going to be talking about Farage or Batten, who would be best placed to lead UKIP. Given that Nigel Farage is talking about coming back into the fray, let's discuss that and what's best for UKIP and the country. And that's going to be interesting. Darrell Goodliffe from Kipper Central is going to be joining me, and so can you. Particularly if you want to take Farage's side, please. Because, to be honest with you, Darrell is pro-Batten, and I am just going to be trying to be as balanced as I possibly can in this show about these two gentlemen. So anyway, yeah, that's coming up in about 11 minutes' time. In the meantime, if you happen to be Facebook, all of this music is copyright free, so please stop messing around with my shows. Thank you. Okay, see you in a minute, folks. All right, God bless you. All right, let's have a good one. Share, people. Please, please, please share. Yeah. That was Hot Mustard. S Strong. Thank you, Hot Mustard. Copyright free Facebook, for crying out loud, you pain in the... Keep buggering on despite the fascist social networks. Copyright free, Facebook. Yeah, blimey. It's all copyright free, for goodness sake. Do-do-do. 2 minutes, people. Do-do-do. I'll tell you what, let's a bit of this. There we go. All right. War drums, Theresa May. War drums, love. Even if it does sound like Jeremy Corbyn at Glastonbury. Hey, Darrell, can you hear me, mate? Darrell Goodliffe.
Hello.
Hey, Darrell, good on you, man. Good on you. Just a bit of a roll call there. Okay, that's enough of that. Let's get on with it. Hey folks, good evening, good people. Welcome to the Daily Chaos. The show ain't daily, but the chaos is. Auto ab KO. I'm Olly Connelly. Thanks for turning up. And now, Farage or Batten? So Nigel Farage may want back into UKIP, huh? But does UKIP want him back? Or is the party better off with Gerard Batten? Or maybe with somebody else. Kipper Central's Darrell Goodliffe is here with me right now, weighing up the pros and cons.
Hello.
And so can you. Hey, Darrell. Hey, can you hear the music, mate? Out of interest.
I can hear the music. Yeah, it's got a like Daily Chaos, good name for a politics show. At the moment.
Auto ab KO. Yeah, and you can join in too. Please do. Get on Discord, guv.li/rant. And we'll see you in the comments. Share the show, like the page, subscribe to the thing, whatever you do, depending on what social network you're on. You should be on DLive, people. Use a network that cares about us. Oh, hark at all those remorons. Yeah. Right, okay. Gonna get straight into the news section. The main news story today, I think it's fair to say, is Boris's resignation speech, huh? So let's have a look at this. And straight away, I'm gonna play his speech in full. This is about 12 minutes, and then I'm going to be asking Darrell about this and lead into our chat from there. So this is the Burke of the House introducing possibly the next Prime Minister.
Mr. Boris Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for granting me the opportunity to pay tribute to the men and women of the Foreign and Commonwealth Office who have done an outstanding job over the last 2 years. And I'm very proud that we have rallied the world against Russia's barbaric use of chemical weapons, with an unprecedented 28 countries joining together to expel 153 spies in protest at what happened in Salisbury. We have rejuvenated the Commonwealth with a superb summit that saw Zimbabwe back on the path to membership and Angola now wanting to join. And as I leave, we are leading global campaigns against illegal wildlife trade and in favour of 12 years of quality education for every girl. And we have the flag, the Union flag, going up in 9 new missions in the Pacific, the Caribbean, and Africa, and more to come, so that we have overtaken France to boast the biggest diplomatic network of any European country. None of this, Mr. Speaker, would have been possible without the support of my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister. Everyone who has worked with her will recognise her courage and her resilience. And it was my privilege to collaborate with her in promoting Global Britain, a vision for this country that she set out with great clarity at Lancaster House on January 17th last year. A country eager, as she said, not just to do a bold, ambitious and comprehensive free trade agreement with the EU, out of the customs union, out of the single market, but also to do new free trade deals around the world. I thought it was the right vision then. I think so today. But in the 18 months that have followed, it is as though a fog of self-doubt has descended. And even though our friends and partners liked the Lancaster House vision, it was what they were expecting from an ambitious partner, what they understood, even though the commentators liked it, and the markets liked it. My right honourable friend, the Chancellor, I'm sure observed, the pound soared. We never actually turned that vision into a negotiating position in Brussels, and we never made it into a negotiating offer. Instead, we dithered, and we burned through our negotiating capital. We agreed to hand over a £40 billion exit fee with no discussion of our future economic relationship. We accepted the jurisdiction of the European Court over key aspects of the withdrawal agreement. And worst of all, we allowed the question of the Northern Irish border, which had hitherto been assumed on all sides to be readily soluble, to become so politically charged as to dominate the debate.
Order. The statement by the right honourable gentleman must be heard, and by long-standing convention it is heard with courtesy and without heckling. Mr. Boris Johnson.
Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful. No one on either side of this House or anywhere wants a hard border. You couldn't construct one if you tried. But there certainly can be different rules north and south of the border to reflect the fact that there are two different jurisdictions. In fact, there already are. There can be checks away from the border and technical solutions, as the Prime Minister rightly described at Mansion House. In fact, there already are. But when I and other colleagues, and I single out my right honourable friend, the Honourable Member for Halton Price and Howden, proposed further technical solutions to make customs and regulatory checks remotely, those proposals were never even properly examined, as if such solutions had become intellectually undesirable in the context of the argument. And somehow, after the December joint report, whose backstop arrangement we were all told was entirely provisional, never to be invoked, it became taboo even to discuss technical fixes. So, Mr. Speaker, after 18 months of stealthy retreat, we have come from the bright certainties of Lancaster House to the Chequers Agreement, and you put them side by side. Lancaster House said laws will once again be made in Westminster. Chequers says there will be an ongoing harmonisation with a common EU rulebook. Lancaster House said it would be wrong to comply with EU rules and regulations without having a vote on what those rules and regulations are. Chequers now makes us rules takers. Lancaster House said we don't want anything that leaves us half in, half out, and we do not seek to hold on to bits of membership as we leave. Chequers says that we will remain in lockstep on goods and agri-foods and much more besides, with disputes ultimately adjudicated by the European Court of Justice. Far from making laws in Westminster, there are large sectors in which ministers will have no power to initiate, innovate, or even deviate. After decades in which UK ministers have gone to Brussels and expostulated against costly EU regulation, we are now claiming that we must accept every jot and tittle for our economic health with no say of our own and no way of protecting our businesses and entrepreneurs from rules now and in the future that may not be in their interests. My right honourable friend, the Chancellor, was asked to identify the biggest single opportunity from Brexit. After some thought, he said regulatory innovation. Well, there may be some regulatory innovation post-Brexit, but it won't be, alas, coming from the UK, and certainly not in those areas. We are volunteering for economic vassalage, not just in goods and agri-foods, but we will be forced to match EU arrangements on the environment and social affairs and much else besides. And of course, we all want high standards. But it is hard to see, I say to my honourable friends, it is hard to see how the Conservative government of the 1980s could have done its vital supply-side reforms with those freedoms taken away. And the result of accepting the EU's rule books and of our proposals for a fantastical Heath-Robinson customs arrangement is that we have much less scope to do free trade deals, as the Chequers paper actually acknowledges, and which we should all frankly acknowledge, because otherwise, if we pretend otherwise, we continue to make the fatal mistake of underestimating the intelligence of the public, saying one thing to the EU about what we are doing, and then saying another thing to the electorate. And given that in important ways, this is Bino or Brino or Brexit in name only, I'm of course unable to accept it, as I said, or to support it, as I said in the cabinet session at Chequers. And I'm happy now to speak out against it and be able to do so. Mr. Speaker, it is not too late to save Brexit. We have time in these negotiations. We have changed tack once, and we can change again. The problem is not that we failed to make the case for a free trade agreement of the kind spelt out at Lancaster House. We haven't even tried. We must try now, because we will not get another chance to get it right. And it is absolute nonsense to imagine, as I fear some of my colleagues do, that we can somehow afford to make a botched treaty now and then break and reset the bone later on. Because we have seen, even in these talks, how the supposedly provisional becomes eternal. We have the time, and I believe the Prime Minister has the support of Parliament. Remember the enthusiasm for Lancaster House and for Mansion House. And it was clear last night, that there is no majority in this House for a return to the customs union. With goodwill and common sense, we can address the concerns about the Northern Irish border and all other borders. We have fully 2.5 years to make the technical preparations, along with preparations for a world trade outcome. Those preparations which we should now accelerate. We should not and need not be stampeded by anyone. But let us, again, aim explicitly for that glorious vision of Lancaster House, a strong, independent, self-governing Britain that is genuinely open to the world, not the miserable, permanent limbo of Chequers, not the democratic disaster of ongoing harmonisation with no way out and no say for the UK. We need to take one decision now before all others, and that is to believe in this country and in what it can do. Because I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, that the UK's admirers, and there are millions, if not billions, across the world, are fully expecting us to do what we said and to take back control and to be able to set new standards for technologies in which we excel, to behave not as rules takers, but as great independent actors on the world stage, and to do free trade deals, proper free trade deals for the benefit and the prosperity of the British people. That was the vision of Brexit that we fought for. That was the vision that the Prime Minister rightly described last year. That is the prize that is still attainable. There is time. And if the Prime Minister can fix that vision once again before us, then I believe she can deliver a great Brexit for Britain, with a positive, self-confident approach that will unite this party, unite this House, and unite this country as well.
Okay, well, very powerful resignation speech. Darrell, what do you think? What are your thoughts on what he said?
I mean, there is enough hot air there to inflate a balloon. There really is. I was just shaking my head throughout that. Let's get a few things clear, yeah?
Go on.
Lancaster House wasn't the great shining vision that Boris makes it out to be, yeah? It was a very vague document, which was very strident in its language, but very light on the specific detail, yeah? And that's the truth of it. Now, it was a lot of vision, yeah? It was a lot of flannel, yeah? And he is basically saying the PM, who is a Remainer PM, yeah? And even David Davis has now said it, yeah? And Boris didn't go as far as David Davis in many ways. He didn't. He didn't say what Davis has been saying, that she's a liar and that she's a Remainer, yeah? Because while this has been going on, the Brexit department has been destroyed by Ollie Robbins and Theresa May. A little coup since Mr. Davis has gone. It's been wiped out, and it's now just a puppet organisation. Yeah.
Darrell, before you carry on, please. I'm sorry about this. This seems to happen every day, every single day. This seems to happen. Facebook play with this feed, and I think that they've just stopped the feed. So let me quickly check, and I can set it back up. I want as many people to hear this as possible. Obviously, this is quite an important show to a lot of people. What's going on, and I'll tell you, I am so fed up of fascist bot. Oh, I'll tell you what, it's an absolute nightmare. It's like dealing with children who do not want the other side to be heard. Dealing with these bloody remorons, and we're getting it. We're getting it. From the social networks who are working in collusion with government, with the deep state to try and silence us. So I'm just going to have to reset this feed, and I'm really sorry. Darrell, would you mind if I? Well, no, I'm not going to start the show again, but I'll just get it going again on Facebook. But this happens. Every day there are problems with Facebook. Every single day. And I'm sure that we're being suppressed by YouTube. I know we're being suppressed by Facebook. In fact, Zuckerberg admitted in a news story last week, he was quoted as saying that when Facebook decide, first of all, he said that, yeah, sure, all of my folks in Silicon Valley are libtards. He didn't use that word, but that's what he meant. That's the translation. And they don't want us to be heard. And so as soon as there's somebody that they disagree with, guess what they do? They shut them down. And he said that when they do limit your page or your group, it will reduce its reach by 90%. 90%, admitted by Zuckerzitz himself. And it's absolutely disgusting. Do you get these problems with Kipper Central on Facebook, Darrell?
Well, we get banned from sharing from time to time, but I mean nothing as bad yet. But I think there is this algorithm in place. Some of the pages that I'm admin on, like British Voice, have had trouble with the algorithm bumping it down. So yeah, it's something I have come across. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, look, I'm just putting in all the new details into my streaming software, and let me just put the description back in. Oh, I tell you, it is so tedious having to deal with this bloody network. But there you go. That's the way it is. When you have people, members of Parliament, who have a majority. A trace majority of about 350. Yeah, you, Anna Soubry! Anti-democratic Bilderberg! When you have people like that who are dismissing the wishes of her own constituents who voted for Brexit, then what hope is there that we can expect social networks to behave any better? So basically, we just got to keep buggering on, people, do the best that we can, and make sure that we're shouting about this, that as many people as possible know what this is, what's going on. I'll tell you what, Goebbels would be proud. Joseph Goebbels would be proud of this kind of censorship, of this kind of propaganda that you get from the likes of Facebook. So anyway, I'm going live again now with Fascist Bot, and we'll have another go. Unfortunately, some people won't have heard Boris's speech. Look, please, people, listen to Boris's speech. If you're watching an archived version of this, if you just joined us on Facebook, then I did just play Boris's resignation speech in full. One of the most important resignation speeches, in my opinion, since that of the great late Robin Cook, who resigned over the Iraq War. Another traitor, huh? Tony Blair, that took us into that illegal war, that put blood on our tax-paying hands. So yeah, now you're joining us back on Facebook. I can see you turning up. I apologize for this. I'm just explaining Facebook every day is buggering around with this show, with this feed, not just Daily Chaos, Daily Brexit, whatever. We're all across. And Zuckerberg has admitted it. He admits that his own people in Silicon Valley are so left-leaning and biased that, yes, they do limit our pages, our groups, to the amount of about 99.0%. So our audience, for example, in fact, you know what? I'm going to read something very, very quickly about this, just to give you an idea of how angry I am about it. And just to put a few things into perspective, something I wrote earlier. Do you care about free speech and journalism? Do you care about exposing government corruption, democracy denied, and political depravity? Do you care about everyone having a chance to offer a point of view without breaking any laws? When a page, such as Daily Chaos, has 3,000 likes and approaching 4,000 followers, and my God, I'll tell you, it's hard building that up with their algorithm. Yet the last 10 posts that I put out, written, not the shows, written, average a reach of just 158 people out of more like 7,000 that are watching the page. And despite subsequent shares, you remember, of course, I'm logged into Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg fan club, you should be ashamed to be associated with a kind of censorship and propaganda the likes of which Joseph Goebbels would have had wet dreams. Okay, all right, that's enough of that. Never mind. Let's just keep buggering on. Darrell, Boris, you made some very salient points there. I would appreciate if you'd start back on what you were saying, please, because I think it's a very interesting alternative view that you put out. Not so alternative, actually, and I think it should be heard. Could you please tell us again what you think of that resignation speech from Boris Johnson? Darrell. Oh, Darrell's gone now. Darrell's gone from Discord. So we lost the flow of the show. Cheers, Facebook. Oh, it's so bloody typical, isn't it? We got Downliner here. Downliner, that's John. Can you hear me? And Predator Jeff, too. Hey, John, how are you, man? And Predator Jeff. Oh, yeah.
Hi, Ollie.
Okay. Yeah, Darrell says, he's just messaged me on Facebook saying that, bear with me, the app has crashed trying to get back. I don't know what that is, I don't know. I'll tell you what, every day tech problems. It must be so easy to be the BBC, mustn't it? It must be so easy when you've got 4 billion a year. 4 billion! The Electoral Commission, which is infested with Remainers, by the way, are complaining about, they reckon, an extra 500,000 spend by the Leave campaigns. And yet, let's have a look at these figures, yeah? For a start, that's the kind of money that George Soros, a foreign oligarch, a plutocrat, has been putting into the Gina Miller nonsense, trying to overturn the democratic will of the British people. Why is that legal? And then, okay, let's have another look at some of these figures. The BBC has been constantly remoronic forever and a day. Not just during that campaign, but every day since. Oh, yeah, they were quiet for a few days, but they've gained speed again. And beforehand and during that campaign, where they had, for example, a debate for young people, but no debate for elderly people who've actually invested in the country. It's an absolute sham. The BBC funded to the tune of, 4 billion plus EU money, plus EU bribes to give the EU case. You talk about that electoral commission. Talk about the double voting for the Labour Party electoral commission. Try and do your job. Absolutely disgusting. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right, Ollie. They haven't, according to their charter, they're supposed to be impartial and unbiased, but they're totally biased to the EU. Absolutely, they have been for decades.
Aye.
They have been for decades, mate. They ain't going to change anytime soon. The BBC is definitely pro-EU.
Okay.
They should be abolished, the BBC. Sorry,
BBC News should be abolished, or at least it should be sold off, privatized, because it might as well be, because it works for private interests. It doesn't work for the British taxpayer that funds it on pain of going to prison if you don't pay for propaganda. I'll tell you, people, stop paying for propaganda. Stop paying for VIP paedophiles who run this country.
They should, at the very least, scrap the TV license and let them advertise for their bloody for their income, like all the other channels do. To me, that just makes total sense. We shouldn't have monopolies in this day and age. We're the only country in the bloody world that has to pay for a TV license, I think. It's so much stupid. It's ridiculous. It's gone on way too long.
Whilst we wait for Darrell, who's trying to work out what's going on with his Discord client, that's the VoIP thing that we use, folks. And you're very welcome to call in, guv.li/rant. And please do. I'm going to bring up an acquainted story with all of this, and you'll see why as I read into it. And then I'll ask your comments, please, Jeff and John here. The curious case of the BBC so obviously overstretching its editorial hand with Cliff Richard, in the news today. Cliff Richard won the payout to the point of effectively requesting precisely this conclusion. Why did BBC News deliberately break the law? And in my opinion, they did. And I do know the law according to journalism. Not only did they name the suspect, which was not in the public interest, in this case it was not. They were pre-prepared enough to film a police house raid, even sending a helicopter scuppering an expensive and presumably extensive police operation into the bargain. Well fudged! Good job! It is inconceivable that the BBC did not know the illegality and ramifications of what they were doing. It is inconceivable that the police did not know to stop the BBC from interfering in legitimate business. In inverted commas, that is. Will anyone at the BBC be held accountable for this major breach of journalism? Let's not hold our breath. I wonder, did this by any chance have anything to do, now this is when I get cut off again, people, with the more serious claims against a certain Kitty, who allegedly frequented child torture den Elm Guest House, as named by the since mysteriously deceased landlady Carol Kazir, along with other celebrities, several senior politicians, including cabinet members, and at the time of the mainland bombing campaign, even members of the IRA, crossing swords with cabinet members in a boys' brothel. Perhaps anti-democrat Anna Soubry MP knows something She's just stood up in the House, I wrote this earlier this afternoon, to take the opportunity to ask for tougher laws of privacy for those accused. How convenient, coming from Westminster, a sewer of paedophilia, if ever there was, with subsequent blackmail for policy as admitted by EEC-bound and boy-binding Ted Heath's whip, Bilderberger Ken Clark's colleague, Tim Fortescue. And I'll play that clip maybe a bit later, but I play it in practically every show if you haven't heard it. It's admitted they use boy rape to railroad government policy, the very government that took us into the EEC. Perhaps, let me find my place. I apologise. The law is already in place, Anna Soubry, as well you know, which again begs these questions. Why did the BBC break the law so wantonly? And why did the police not tell the BBC to pull back and bugger off? Some of us are researched enough to know the answers. I would like to congratulate the Boys Buggering Club, who have long formed for covering up VIP paedophilia, for such a sensational job assisting our corrupt police and deviant establishment in scuppering what would have been a far more vital investigation, Elm Guest House, into the kind of VIP filth that runs the UK. Don't pay for propaganda, people. You are sponsoring child rape with your BBC licence fee. That and the usurping of democracy itself. Boycott the BBC and tell everyone why. Anything there you disagree with?
Nope.
But it's Auntie. They care about us. They know what's best for us.
Yeah, right. In your dreams.
But that Hugh Edwards on Whatnot News or whatever, he's got a lovely smile and a beautiful Welsh brogue. Surely he wouldn't lie to us. That Evan Davis bloke on Newsnight, again, he's got a lovely smile. Dodgy haircut, but he's got a great smile. He seems so pleasant. Why would somebody like that lie to us? That's a genuine question. Why? I'll tell you why. Because it's a bloody job's worth! They all are. How many people on the BBC payroll have you heard in favour of Brexit? Are they representative of the public that they say in their own documents, in their charter, that they serve?
Well, I haven't paid for a TV licence for about 9 years now, Ollie. So I'm not sponsoring the gits.
What do you think, John?
I'm sorry to do it today, but I'm pretty busy. I'm trying to do your page, the new page.
Oh, mate, excellent. That's great. Okay, look, I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. Got a bit of an advance going on with Daily Chaos, one way and another. Care of my guest yesterday, actually, Ben Jenkins, bless him, from By Nye Bevan News. And I'll be talking about that more tomorrow because sorting out some of the details at the moment. But it is good news for this show, I have to say. It's one way to try and get round the kind of censorship that we get from Facebook. But look, people, this show, if you do this kind of stuff, and I hope you are, the more the merrier, then please, for one, do it on DLive, yeah. Do your shows on DLive and simulcast to Facebook, but tell everybody what Facebook is. By all means, simulcast on YouTube, but make sure that people know what YouTube is. These networks are not there to help us. Networks like DLive are there to help us. So if they're supporting us, let's support them. And if you want to watch this show, please, and I hope you do, then watch it on DLive. And the short link for that, the pretty link, to keep it nice and simple, is guv.li/chaos. It's up there on the screen. Okay.
See, Ollie, I'm not really concerned with the politics side at this moment. After watching the episode of UK Column today, it seems like a huge misdirection.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Tell me more specifically what you're saying, and then I'll bring Darrell back in.
One of the stories was about obviously common purpose. They always mention that.
Yeah.
The other one was about this aim, a government paper that says they're trying to keep young people as young as possible. You know, childish in nature, keep them down. And
Sarah Boland's asking if I need to lie down after that rant, and I'll tell you, yeah, it wouldn't be a bad idea, I tell you.
A lie down would not be a bad idea, Ollie. I'm sorry about that. The app crashed out, and I'm back now.
That's all right. God bless
you.
The
other document was a Guardian newspaper thing saying that they've given the go-ahead for DNA, genetically modified human beings.
I'm sorry?
Check the Guardian. They've actually got that says they've given the go-ahead towards genetically modifying humans.
Oh, really? Oh, wonderful!
Yeah, and the guy who's actually
things to look forward to.
Sounds like he wants to be in a like a superhero movie with mutant powers. He wants to alter DNA to give people mutant powers. He says.
There's a show right there. I'll look at that story after the show, and we'll talk about it. Okay.
Yeah, the thing that concerns me is even though the government's rubbish and they've basically collapsed, all this stuff is still happening in the background, and nobody's being told about it.
Can I just say, it's not much of a leap from Boris to genetically modified human beings and mutant powers. I have to say, it's actually on the same track. But
okay, Darrell, you got cut off. We all got cut off on Facebook. I'd like you to explain again what you think of Boris's resignation speech. And if you didn't catch it, I did play the whole lot at the top of the show. I don't know when exactly we were cut off on Facebook. If you haven't seen his speech, please watch his show. Watch his show. Watch his resignation speech. I think it's one of the most powerful. One of the most powerful. Hold on. One of the most powerful resignation speeches probably since that of Robin Cook. Who was defying another traitor. But Darrell, you disagree with me, and you make some interesting points. Go on.
I disagree with you radically. Robin Cook actually attacked Tony Blair, whereas Boris was hiding behind the skirts tails of this Remainer PM and still thinks, as he said right at the end, she can deliver a great Brexit. I mean, who in the country thinks that apart from Boris Johnson and, a few other people? I'm sorry. There's a lot of hot air in that speech. As I was saying
you say that, but I mean, I say this impartially. And as somebody who does not entirely trust Boris Johnson, I'm more hopeful than desperate, actually, than anything. But and when he ran that campaign, whoa, just a sec.
Sorry, no, he didn't mention in that speech that he just accepted a job against the ministerial code for $275,000.
John, please, let me finish. I need to organise.
1 hour's work a day, 1 hour's work a week.
Darrell, John, please let me. I've forgotten my thread. Yeah, no, the thing. Okay, I did not trust him during that campaign. I thought he was controlled opposition. And frankly, I still do. And I think that he is a cynical politician. But on the other hand, I also think that he has this Churchillian fantasy and he knows that there is a possibility here to have what he wants, I believe, more than anything, which is an incredible legacy, which is possible for whatever PM does take us out of Europe and give us our self-sovereignty. And therefore, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, despite, frankly, not trusting him. Am I wrong, Darrell?
Well, actually, in terms of, yes, Boris has a ginormous ego, which would be big enough to fill the entire chamber, and let alone the government benches. Yeah, I can understand believing in that to an actual degree. But the fact is, he didn't challenge Theresa May. He bottled it. He messed up the last leadership contest. Actually, in 2016, he wrote a very pro-Remain article for the Sunday Times. Yes, he
wrote one pro and one anti, didn't he? And he reckoned that he was weighing up the pros and cons himself when he did that.
Well, no, I'm sorry. He's an opportunist, like you said, and that's he's an opportunist. Yeah, he's a careerist, and the only person I think in the senior level of Conservative Party who actually sincerely wants Brexit is David Davis. Yeah, and he's soul destroying. See, but he has actually been much more strident in his criticism of Theresa May on a personal level. Boris Johnson fluffed that line. Yes, he fluffed the line that Chequers. The policy and the PM are one and the same thing, yeah? He failed to challenge her.
Darrell, what about Jacob Rees-Mogg? Doesn't he genuinely want Brexit?
No.
Yeah, no, I said senior Tory, so I was talking about people in the cabinet or the leadership of the Conservative Party.
Was he not being pragmatic, though, Darrell? Well, I mean, what's the point of him tearing lumps out of Theresa May at this stage, given his position would be to try and hold a fragmented party together?
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, but he's got to make a decision, hasn't he? Sitting on the fence is not an option anymore for this country, for Brexit, yeah? And this is why I say Tory Brexiteers are dangerous, because they inculcate illusions in the Conservative Party that it will deliver Brexit, which it won't, yeah? And even those who want to, I genuinely believe David Davis wants to deliver Brexit, yeah? I genuinely believe that's what he wants. I don't think he would be able to do it, even if he was Prime Minister, because he would be stopped by the likes of Olly Robbins. He would be stopped by people who...
Civil servant, unelected civil servant and Europhile cretin, Olly Robbins, Sorry, carry on.
And by the way, while all this ERG stuff has been happening, the Brexit department has been destroyed and made an adjunct of Downing Street, and that was part of the reason that Davis went, is because May was basically subverting the Brexit department. So that little coup's taken place under cover of parliamentary theatre. And that's a bad news for Brexit, that the Robbins-May alliance now has, completely decimated the Brexit department. And it is literally, as Steve Baker said, just, a puppet organised, puppet thing now. And it's just, completely pointless. And that's why Davis went. And that's why Davis has been much more strident in his personal criticism of May, calling her a liar. He's called May out. He has still, because they're all scared of a general election, he has still... he shied away from saying what needs to be done, but he has been much more strident in his criticism of Theresa May on a personal level. David Davis is the only person, and Boris Johnson never said this, who's come out and said Theresa May is a Remainer still, but she's a liar. Yeah, and David Davis has said all these things, and whereas Boris Johnson completely...
Moggy has said it. Moggy has been particularly strong on it, just recently.
He completely... Let's go back to the last Conservative leadership contest of Boris Johnson. He completely fluffed his lines, yeah? He completely fluffed his lines.
That's theatrics. Who cares? The thing that's important is the line. Whether or not he delivered it right is another matter, surely.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you don't deliver it right, especially in this, then it's not the right line, is it? I don't think you can separate the delivery from what you're actually saying, yeah? The message from... man in that sense, yeah. I don't see how that happens, to be honest, because I can't see Boris delivering Brexit. It'll be, I don't even know if he's going to be able to get rid of May, because I don't have any confidence in his ability to organise a troop of blind hedgehogs marching out of a bag, to be completely honest, and that's based on the fact that he completely fluffed the last leadership contest. He did, yeah, and I think in his nature he is a coward. And
did he fluff it, or was he tripped up by Gove? He was tripped up by Gove.
Well, to a degree, but I mean, anybody who trusts Michael Gove is, is.
We're learning that now.
So, I'm going to make this crystal clear, and I have been saying this to people in UKIP today, and they will back me up. Yeah, we have got to stop sowing illusions in the Tory party. The Tory party is not going to deliver Brexit. Yeah, and even those people who want to, like I said, can't.
You say that, but he has backed himself in the same corner that Theresa May did, which is why now her premiership is threatened. If two Tory leaders in a row were to do that, that would be it for the Conservative Party.
Well, yeah, it would. And then people draw a natural conclusion, which is the only party which is going to deliver Brexit is UKIP. Yeah, which leaves us probably onto our next topic.
It does. Yeah? It does. Okay, yeah, look, let me take a few comments because I want to involve our commentators. God bless them. And then we will go straight into this debate. Thomas White, I have always said the transition period was just so they can think of a plan to stay in the EU, because we should not have won. They say it was 17.4 million votes to leave, but the fact is it was more like 19 million votes to leave. That's what Thomas is saying. Of course, all those folks that abstained didn't have enough faith in the EU to vote. It has to be said as well. Gove the Zionist, says somebody. Lynn Oakley, Batten does not shy away from political prisoners or Islam. He gets my vote. And so we'll be coming on to Batten versus Farage in just a sec. Jordan Stewart, Batten all the way. Jordan Stewart, Batten all the way, yeah. Mandy Smallman points out that Gerard Batten is on Newsnight tonight. So there's something for our diaries. I will definitely be watching that. I always like to have a good laugh at Newsnight anyway. Facebook user, I don't know who this is. I probably blocked you because you were being rude or something. You give us a shout, give us a PM, and I'll reinstate you. I don't believe any of them would be integrous, have the integrity enough to stick their heads above the parapet. Lynn Scott, let's just hang them all. I love a good hanging, lots of laughs. They should bring back hanging for treason, no? Guess who got rid of that? The war criminal. Steve Russell, I would never trust Boris. He blows with the wind. And that is okay if the wind is blowing in your favor. And who is to say he won't change his mind? Everyone says he is a Bilderberger. I share your concerns. Thomas White, he thinks he is going to be another Trump. Well, that's what we need, I think, really. Irrespective of what the CNNs of this world think, we know who buys them. They're completely in the Soros camp. Thomas White telling the truth about Corbyn. I don't know what that refers to. Graham Moore. Hey, Graham. Hello, mate. I hope you're feeling a bit better, sir. Batten all day long. And Jack's odd. I'm going to write to Nadine Dorries about the paedophilic cover-ups, as she is a mother and was a nurse. I've met her when she swiftly sorted out my housing several years ago. Thank you, Jax. Yes, indeed. And good to see you about. It's a name I haven't seen around here before. Okay, all right. And yes, Sarah, I do need to lie down, but it'll have to wait. Right, okay. So, Darrell, it has to be said at the top of this show, at the top of this discussion, rather, that this was supposed to be a debate about Batten versus Farage, but because of various things going on in my life and I've only managed to find one half of the debate here. Yeah. So if anybody out there wants to bat for Farage, guv.li rant, please call in and join us to try and balance this. Otherwise, I will try to be as balanced as possible. Although, quite frankly, I have an opinion too, yeah. But I will nonetheless try to be as balanced as possible in this. Darrell, I understand that you are on the side of Gerard Batten. How can anybody not be on the side of the guy that delivered us the referendum?
Well, a couple of points. Nobody can take that away from him, and nobody would dream of trying to take that away. It's a monumental achievement, a historic achievement, and nobody can take that away from Nigel. Yeah, okay. Having said that, we're post the referendum now, yeah, and this is part of my case for Gerard, yeah. We're not in the referendum anymore. We're in the real battle for Brexit now, yeah, because that was the beginning of the war, as we've seen, I think, yeah. It wasn't the end of the war, it was the beginning. And I have to say, sorry, Nigel, but you left at the beginning of the war, the real war, yeah, because that's the one that's going on now. That's the one that's going on. He would
say, were he here, that he was fighting for 20 years. You know how much he was being molested by the fake stream media, by the establishment, and every bloody, anti-democratic little whatnot. He had to retire for the sake of his own sanity. He had a plane crash, for God's sake, which was pretty damn dodgy. I don't know whether they tried to knock him out. I don't know. But it did kind of look a bit that way, didn't it? I don't know. I mean, he would say he batted for Blighty 20 years. It was time to pass the baton.
And he did. And okay, Ollie, I accept your premise. Yeah, okay. Let's talk about the future, because I mean, if Nigel does stand, it is a little bit premature because we're a year away from the leadership contest. Yeah, and Nigel has dropped hints before. He said I may come back and this and that. I personally think, my feeling is, and this is based on concrete information, which I'm not going to go into, but I mean, he will attempt to stand when the leadership contest is next year. So
really, you have that. Yeah. You have that on good authority that Nigel Farage will.
I have strong reason to believe that that's the case, and it's not entirely guesswork. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah. Okay.
Can I play devil's advocate here?
Go on, Jeff, please.
Well, I choose Farage. As I'll tell you why.
Good. We've got a champion for Farage. Great. Go on.
Well, because Gerard Batten, I think he says all the right things, but I think he's got the personality of a damp rag. Whereas Nigel Farage has got a bit more charisma. He's got a stronger personality. He basically.
Are we not fed up of personality politics?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think
you need that in politics to a degree.
In terms of concrete delivery, okay, let's look at it in the concrete delivery.
I think he's
Nigel, but UKIP was a complete and utter shambles. Yeah, it is being built up from scratch. Yeah, and all the people that listen to the show, ex-UKIP, who have things against people like Paul Oakton, Steve Crowther, all these people came from Nigel. Yeah, okay, at the end of the day, and were sponsored. In terms of party organisation, the case for Gerard Batten is quite simple. Look at what's on we are building now. 4,000 members flooding in, yeah? Not just over Brexit, not just disaffected Tories, but people like Paul Joseph Watson over free speech, yeah? And so on and so forth.
That is a very good point. Does it matter who the leader is? Is it relevant when you have an NEC for UKIP, which is just so negligent as to the best interests? They give us people like Bolton bloke.
I have to defend the NEC here. I have to defend the NEC.
Okay. Hold on, Jeff. Hold on. Go on, Darrell.
Well, I have to defend the NEC here to a large degree. Now, first thing is, they're volunteers, yeah? Okay. They are doing the best they can in most cases, yeah? There are a lot of good people on the NEC, and that's why I feel compelled to speak up to a degree for them, yeah?
Fair play.
Because I think their reputation is somewhat unfairly.
It's basically Crowther, isn't it? It's basically Crowther that is the dodgy character.
Who brought Crowther in? Who brought Oakton in? Nigel Farage. Yeah, this is my whole point. Yeah, we were Nigel's people. Yeah, they were. Yeah, okay, that's the bottom line. Yeah.
Jeff,
this is the problem.
Jeff, what would you say to this?
Nigel has a foot. Nigel doesn't want UKIP to be a political party that aspires to govern. He doesn't. Yeah, he wants it to be something like the 5 Star Movement. Yeah, which actually has got into a government position. But we are not going to be a single issue party anymore. Gerard is making us into a real party of some sort of party which one day could be in government. Yeah, and that's what we should aim to do. Because the only way I see Brexit as happening is firstly in the hands of somebody who's humble, who has, in terms of charisma, no, I'm sorry, what we want is integrity, and humility.
Yes.
And that's what I want to see in a Brexit leader.
I understand that, but I will say that Farage is, when it comes to, he's a better orator, I think, and not only that, I think that he's got a stronger personality, but he's also a man to get the job done, and nobody can barrage the Farage because
in terms of structure of UKIP, he did not get the job done. Yeah, he did not. He left and he backed Henry Bolton. His political judgment has not been all that recently.
How could anybody back a moron like Bolton?
Well,
I do
exactly.
apologise.
So Nigel Farage's stamp all over it. Yeah, it was his call. It was his call, and he has to be made accountable for that. He backed him as a political referee. He did, and he also, when it came to the vote of no confidence, who was batting for Henry Bolton but Nigel Farage? Yeah, and Henry Bolton would have taken this party to pieces. Yeah, there would be no party.
I'll agree. I'll concede one point. I think you're right about Batten being more of a man of integrity. And I would like to think that the popular vote would go for that. But I think in real terms, if you want to get UKIP's membership numbers up and people on voting...
Hang on, we gained 4,000 members and Nigel Farage is not leader, and he's barely said... I can't remember one instance of him saying on his radio show, join UKIP. Yeah, and join UKIP. He hasn't. Yeah, if I stand to be corrected, but it hasn't happened. Yeah, so we've got 4,000 members on the bounce without Nigel Farage, with Gerard Batten as our leader. That's the concrete fact.
How many would you have with Nigel Farage at the helm? How many votes would you have with Nigel Farage? That's the questions you should be asking. Because
I don't think it would go that way. I think he would be I think he'd have his wings pulled off. I really do. I really think the establishment would tear him down. Yeah, I really do.
You can't barrage the Farage.
Well, we would say.
Now, hold on a sec. Let me just say also, I've heard Batten speak on the... Whoa, just one sec, Jeff, because this is a question to you, actually. I've heard Batten speaking on the 23rd of June, Independence Day in London. And he is more quietly spoken, say, than Farage, less booming and what have you. But the guy is salt of the earth, it seems to me. He's a regular guy, the kind of guy that we need in politics, who is classless.
Is he strong enough to win debates, though? Because Farage is. And you know that Farage will not be barraged. Do you know what I mean? I mean, he wins every debate. He doesn't lose debate.
He didn't fair. I mean, obviously, he was trying to lead Steve Bannon over the weekend into, some criticism of Tommy Robinson, and he ganged up on Bannon, by the way, with a political producer of LBC who ambushed Bannon. Yeah, another bad misjudgment by Nigel Farage.
Really. That interesting. I didn't hear that.
Tommy
Go on.
Robinson. But we're talking about Nigel's judgments, not backing Tommy Robinson. Even Gerard has said he doesn't agree with Tommy Robinson on everything. Yeah,
but he does believe in freedom of speech, doesn't he?
Prisoner.
He is I believe he's been interned.
And
effectively.
Tommy Robinson is a political prisoner. Yeah, he's a political prisoner held there by the UK state for his political opinions. And Nigel Farage is not backing him. He's saying, well, he broke the law.
Well, he did break the law. I mean, it's very it's very much on a knife edge whether he did or didn't. It just seems to me that so far as Tommy is concerned, it's not just about Tommy Robinson. Whatever you think about Tommy or not, it's about freedom of speech.
Well,
and the fact is that he was just trying to exercise our God-given right for freedom of speech. No?
Absolutely.
Batten seems to see that. Farage doesn't seem to see that, Jeff.
Well, yeah, I think you've got a point there. I just think when it comes to public relations, I think Farage is definitely a stronger man, but because he's not one to be heckled, being pushed into a corner or whatever. He's got experience in that field, and I just feel that he's just, I don't know, something about Batten. I mean, I like Batten's integrity. I like that he says all the right things, but I just don't know that he's got the sort of the strong character to pull it off.
I've got a question for Darrell then off the back of that. Because if we take this to the next stage, which is about the policy, is Gerard Batten not going to put people off from UKIP because, for example, of the kind of language that he uses? And I'm not saying it's wrong. Frankly, I agree with it. But the language that he uses, for example, about a large section of the Muslim population, for example, is he not going to put people off?
he talks about Islam. Yeah, let's make this distinction quite clear. Yeah, because he makes it all the time. Yeah, he does. He's talking about what is in that book in the Quran. Yeah, principally. Yeah, and he is talking about what he calls literalists. Yes. Who and he's saying that basically they're literalists, and they are literally and correctly interpreting the Quran, and I believe that is the case, and I agree with him. Yeah. But on the other hand, Ollie, again, I have to let's look at the concrete facts in front of us. Yeah, if this was to be the case, would we have just gone 5 points up in the polls? Would we be getting, Sun said 4,000 members, into the all parties?
How much of that's to do with Batten, and how much to do with is that to do with the fact that Parliament is failing us?
Well, I think some of it, obviously it's a bit of both. But what I'm saying is, you said that Batten would put people off, and I'm saying, well,
I didn't say that. I asked that. Carry on.
Well, okay, no, sorry, but you know what I mean. You put that proposition that you put people off, and that's what I'm saying. Well, he hasn't done so far, and he's building a broad coalition, and in that sense, you're right. Some will be coming. Some won't agree with Gerard on Islam, some existing members of UKIP, I'm sure, don't agree with Gerard on Islam. I happen to agree with Gerard on Islam, but that's by the by, but all parties are like that, for a start, and that's part of becoming a real political party in many senses. You have different wings and different, shades of ideological opinion, and that's just the way things happen, and that's good because you can't represent people if you're a monolith. If you're just one, that's what Labour's in danger of becoming. Actually, a monolith which represents only the people and it talks to, and that's why you've got John Woodcock resigning today and saying, this is not a broad church, and it's not just that, one ideology is in control, but that ideology aggressively kicks out the other ideology, and says there's no place for you, so there's no free speech, there's no healthy internal democratic life, and it's that healthy internal democratic life which determines policy. And that's where it's forged in the fire of that struggle, isn't it? And that's natural. That's part of being in a political party. But the central proposition that Gerard would put people off just hasn't come to fruition. I think he's got a lot of appeal as a man of integrity, as an antidote to politicians who are all about the show, are all about the flash and the show, And I think there's a lot of people in this country, quite frankly, who want to hear from somebody like that. As an antidote to the establishment politics which we have of insincerity and game playing, and which is being typified by what's happening in Parliament to Brexit at the moment. So I think there's a lot of people out there who want to hear from somebody like Gerard Batten. So I don't see that as a negative.
Okay,
I see it actually as a plus.
Okay, Jeff, please riposte.
Well, I mean, I'm in agreement in as much as he's good and he's got integrity and all this sort of stuff. What I'm worried about is what the public will go for, because if public go for somebody with like less personality, less character, they might go for Gerard Batten. But if they examine the policies and what they're saying and things like that, because
the voters. The voter?
Do the voters, or do the voters go for...
I think they do, don't they? When it comes up to an election, I think it's exactly what they do.
I don't know.
I think the voters
not enough, maybe.
Are much more savvy than people give them credit for. So yes. I agree with Olly. I think they do.
I was asking a question, but actually it is my opinion,
Well, in that case, stick with Batten then. If you think that, then I would say, go with Batten.
Well, hold on a sec. You're not allowed to give up on your man that easily, for God's sake. Come on, you're supposed to be supporting Farage. Right, let's take some comments. Lynn Scott, they're chalk and cheese and appeal to totally different groups. More divide.
You have to go where the votes are. If you're going to build UKIP into a fighting force to challenge the main three, then you...
It's not really just about votes, though, is it?
Gerard's doing. I have to interject there, because that's exactly what Gerard's doing. He is building a party from scratch, essentially. That's what's happening behind the scenes, Structure is starting to be put in place. started to become a professionally run organisation, and we are getting there, yeah. But we had to, UKIP had to start from scratch, yeah. Henry Bolton was like a giant nuclear bomb, yeah. And it was ground zero after that EGM, yeah. The finances were in disarray. There was no structure, no communications, no nothing.
Was he controlled opposition? Was he another Carswell?
Oh, sorry, Henry Bolton.
Yeah. Just as an aside.
Well, I think the thing with Henry is I think he won that election basically on the back of Nigel's endorsement. The membership at home, the activists, if you looked online, within the activists, it was between John and Anne.
What did he do that was positive for UKIP? One thing.
Nothing. Henry Bolton did nothing. He actually ran it into the ground. All he did was a speaking tour, and spoke to people, and nothing. There was no planning in place for the local elections when Gerard got in. Absolutely nothing. Nothing got actually done, and Gerard's had to start with that. So in terms of building a party to challenge a big three, that's exactly what Gerard's doing. And I have to say, Nigel achieved fantastic things. He did, yeah. But a lot on the strength of his personality. I agree with you, yeah. Because it certainly wasn't on the basis of the organisational strength of UKIP necessarily, yeah. Which, Gerard is building a party which will be there in 20 years, structures which will be there in 20 years, which will stand the test of time, yeah, which will ensure there is a UKIP, and there is a UKIP which actually can start to look like a party of government, not a pressure group, okay? We don't want to be a pressure group. We want to be a party with a policy on the NHS, on education, and a vision of Britain when we're free, yeah? But the only way to get Britain free is for UKIP to, be in some kind of government, because I don't see any other party doing it. We're all completely divided and, a lot under the thumb of, the sinister forces in this world which want to keep us in the EU, which is a disaster zone, by the way, yeah, which is falling to pieces, thank heavens, yeah, but not before time, yeah. But, we need to be a governmental party, yeah? And that's what Gerard Batten will build. And unfortunately, I don't see any evidence that Nigel would build a party like that. And it's, nobody can take his past away from him. I agree.
He did build okay. He did build a party like that, though, didn't he? I mean, sure, it was pretty much a single issue. It was pretty much single issue at the time. But I think that we've evolved since then. The fact that issue now is so much, my word, it's something's going on, whether it's good or bad. The fact is that something's going on with it. The fact that that's the case now, is it not more natural for UKIP to diverge into other areas as well, to diversify? But hopefully, with Brexit being the kingpin policy.
Well, yeah, Brexit is the first step.
Would Farage not look also for a more rounded manifesto if he were in power now? Times have changed slightly.
I'm not necessarily convinced he would, because he wants it to be. Aaron Banks calls it UKIP 2.0, and this is kind of like online membership, and it's all done online, and it all sounds very nice. But I don't think in the UK, you've got to remember, Movement 5 Star did do it in Italy, but they have a different electoral system, yeah? We have a first-past-the-post electoral system, which UKIP, to get any purchase, has to start succeeding under, yeah? We have to start putting bums on seats in Westminster and in council chambers, yeah? Before we can get the changes we need to PR. And I agree there needs to be a different electoral system. I personally favour additional member, but as you know...
It has to be said, actually, UKIP doesn't need that many seats to make a massive impact, and we've seen that in the last two Commons votes.
30 MPs would make it a biddable coalition partner. It could demand Brexit.
Well, the DUP's got what? 8 or 9 or maybe 11 MPs.
12, I think.
Okay, all right.
Like yeah.
If we had a UKIP presence in Parliament of just 3 or 4 MPs, I think that would make an enormous difference. For one thing, because the Brexit message would be being heard from a slightly different perspective on a daily basis in Parliament, and the BBC would have to cover it.
Well, exactly. And, I agree with you, Ollie. But I mean, to do that, we need. The thing is, UKIP did very well at PR elections, didn't they? Did very well in European elections. They won the European elections. Historic achievement, yeah. and nobody can take it. But winning at PR elections is a completely different beast to winning
Sure.
at first past the post elections. Yeah, it is.
Yes.
And that's why the move of 5-star model that Nigel wants, and this isn't just about personality. As I said, this is about the substance of a future vision of UKIP, and I hope I've managed to get that across. Yeah. But Nigel's vision of a 5-star movement kind of UKIP won't cut it in the UK. It won't be as successful as it was in Italy because we have a different electoral system, yeah? The electoral system in the UK demands hard slog on a wet Thursday night, weekly canvassing, casework, person-to-person contact, yeah? Because it's first past the post. And that's how elections are won, yeah, in this country, yeah? Not like they are in Italy.
All right.
Electoral system.
Okay. I want to take some comments, and I want to bring some more people into this. But before I do, please, Jeff, please defend your man, sir.
Yeah. No, I think they both got pros and cons. To be honest, I'm not really hard on either one, but both are good. But I think you used to have a good team actually in UKIP, Darrell. You used to have Godfrey Bloom. And he was brilliant. I thought he was a man of integrity. Godfrey Bloom. I really do believe he's a man of integrity. And he stood up against the central banking system with some things. And that needs to be dealt with. I think you need to get some of these good old UKIPers back on the scene, like Godfrey Bloom and that other one, David Noakes, who was really anti-EU. I think we should get him back in UKIP as well, because I think they do. I mean, it's all about teamwork as well. It's not just about the leader, is it?
I agree. Yeah,
we've got We've got Lynn. What's your surname, my dear? I've lost your comment, but I think it's Lynn. Is it Lynn Scott? I don't think it was Lynn Scott. I think it was a different Lynn, because is asking why can't they work together?
Well, I think that's a good question. I don't think Nigel's ego would allow it, and after going to tell, I don't think he would allow. I don't think his ego would allow him, for example, to work under if Gerard was to be leader again, a Gerard Batten leadership. I think he would. I don't think that would happen. That's my person. It would be great. It would be the ideal solution because you bring the charisma of Nigel, which is right. You're right about that. I'm not dismissing that. And, the earth saltiness of Gerard, and that would be a powerful combination, wouldn't it just? Yeah, it would be.
What are your thoughts on that, Jeff?
We don't live in an ideal world.
Jeff, what are your thoughts on that?
On what, sorry?
On whether or not they could work together. For the greater good of the country. Public service, people!
I mean, I think you should have... I mean, what about... somebody with a bit more character. What about that? What's his name?
Okay, that's not answering the question. Sarah Boland is asking. The question is, she says, does Gerard Batten want to be leader? Does he want to be leader?
Well, I mean, he's not made any public statements on this, has he? I mean, I think he's very, but then again, you could ask the same question of Nigel, because as I said, I have my opinion. It is founded in concrete things, but I have my opinion that this time is different. But he has said it before. Don't forget, he has flattered to see. He said, "Oh, if this happens, I'll come back." And I do have to say, and if you're listening, Nigel, please do take this on board. March next year, Brexit is going to be gone by March next year. Trust me, yeah, because the key period.
It's going to be what
now? The key period for Brexit now is this autumn, and the votes in Parliament on the deal, and that is going to, by March next year, I think we'll be in a completely different political landscape. I think Brexit, the fate of Brexit might have been decided largely by that time. It has to be said, yeah.
Okay.
But, I mean...
That's another show entirely, and I'm sure we've all got views on that. But let me take a few more questions and what have you before I bring other people in. Lynn Oakley, Nigel won't back political prisoners and Islam, I don't think. Stephen Lang says it's like walking on sand in roller skates. Time is running out with regards Brexit. That's something that we discuss pretty much every day, and we could talk about it today, but then we're not going to be talking about the main theme here. Thomas White, the only way any other party would win is if only everyone voted for one party. Maureen Smith, if we could get all these great people together for the sake of the country. God bless you, Maureen. Lynn Scott, coming back after the horse has bolted. I think referring to Farage. We've got Helen Lasky-Smith popped in. God bless you, Helen. Can you hear me? Probably not, because she's even more of a technophobe than me.
Darrell, whoever you have leading UKIP, it has to be somebody with a fighting personality, yeah? Somebody who ain't going to back down when the going gets tough.
Well, I have to say, by default, that is leading UKIP.
Modern politics savages people. And I've noticed this. Corbyn's managed to stay going strong despite
remarkable, really.
Despite all the trouble that he's been through. I'm not saying I support Corbyn's policies or anything.
Yep.
But despite all that he's been through, he's managed to stay strong and
alive. Compare that to John Smith.
Yes,
UKIP is leading UKIP is a daily struggle, from what I understand. I have to say, being editor-in-chief of a UKIP supporting blog, I have never had a dull day. I really haven't. I've never had a day elsewhere. So I can guarantee that, and I guarantee, I will never have a dull day in UKIP because that's the nature of the beast. Yeah, Gerard has got.
If you want the best leader, Darrell, if you want the very best leader for UKIP, you need me. Because you need somebody with fighting personality, with integrity, that will get the job done, that achieves absolutely what he sets out to do. You need me running UKIP.
I think you've broken exclusive, Ollie. I think the new UKIP leadership bid has been announced, I think. So,
and I'll get the votes in. Don't worry about that.
All right. Okay. If anybody wants to call in, please, guv.li/rant. Going to be going for about another 14 minutes of this show. And we've got Graham Moore popped in. Graham, good afternoon, sir. Good evening. What would you like to say?
Good afternoon and good evening. Hopefully you can hear me.
How are you feeling?
Hello,
I understand you've been under the weather. I hope you're feeling a bit better.
Yes, I had a heart attack on Friday at Windsor Castle. Got an emergency operation and they put a stent in, and I was back to work on Monday. Not that I wanted to be, in case of having to be. Now I'm feeling all right, just feeling a bit tired, that's all.
What's your take? And it's good to hear that you're feeling a bit better. What's your take on this debate, Farage versus Batten?
Well, I've got a very strong opinion on both. The first opinion is I like Nigel Farage. He was phase one. Phase one was the referendum. We should never have ever been in the EU in the first place or the common market. It was highly illegal. It is against our constitution. There was always friction between Gerard Batten and Nigel Farage because they had two different approaches to getting out of the EU. Gerard Batten was always stating that you want to shut down the European Communities Act of 1972. I'd go one step further and say it should be void because under English law it was a fraud, it was unconstitutional, and therefore you can't repeal it. It shouldn't exist in the first place.
Yeah.
But Gerard Batten is the only person who is a constitutionalist. He has written books on the Constitution. He has written books on the solution to this. He has got the solution. And the more and more people that look at the Constitution as the solution and the fact that there is a window of opportunity, and that's now. Well, President Trump there, who's a constitutionalist, you've got America backing us up. We'll revert back to the Constitution and what I describe as a constitutional audit.
I agree. The EU should never be recognised as a legitimate entity. It's a criminal enterprise. Nobody wants it.
So let me
the average everyday people don't want it. It's only the political class because it's a gravy train for the fat cats. So it shouldn't have been recognised. It should be null and void. Absolutely, from ab initio.
So
from the get-go.
Let me get this right. Your opinion here, Graham, is that Farage was brilliant to get bums on seats, to think about Brexit, and to persevere for that referendum. But when it comes to the technicalities, you think that Gerard Batten is more suited?
I believe that there's a phase two. I think Nigel Farage completed phase one. Phase two is a different skill set, and that skill set is the skill set of Gerard Batten. But there's two crucial elements to that. The first is that Gerard Batten 100% is a constitutionalist. If you speak to Nigel Farage has stated in the past, and he stated to me, that he thinks the Constitution is a mire, a quagmire, when it isn't. It's simple. And the Bill of Rights of 1688-89 and the Coronation Oath Act, and this is crucial because the Queen swore an oath in 1953 to uphold the laws and customs of this land. And that includes, and that Coronation Oath Act included the Bill of Rights of 1688-89, which completely forbids the European Union.
Does Batten talk about that, though? I know Farage doesn't.
He's wrote a book about it.
I think there's a lot in what Graham's actually saying, Ollie, and I think it relates to some of what I've been saying. You know, Nigel did a fantastic job. Nobody can take that away from him. Nobody would dream of taking that away from him, even, you know, in this debate. But there is a question of where we go from here. And what Graham is actually saying shows, because Gerard is all over the free speech issue. You know, he is championing it at every turn. Yeah. Whereas Nigel simply doesn't get it, and that's shown in the Tommy Robinson case. Sorry, it has. Yeah, and I think
is the most important thing that we've got. So in that case,
exactly. Yeah,
I've changed my vote to Gerard Batten in that case then, because somebody said to me, if you could choose between free speech, freedom of assembly, and freedom of expression, which would you choose to keep out of the three? And I said free speech.
Yeah.
Because with free speech, you can get the other two back. Do you see what I'm saying? It's the most important thing we got.
That's nice. Pragmatic.
You got nothing.
Just to give you an indication, Gerard Batten wrote a book. It was called The Inglorious, which I've got, which is called The Inglorious Revolution. It sets out exactly what happened, how it's happened, how the English Constitution has been subverted, and how we take back control. The man knows the Constitution. He knows it well, and that's the primary difference here. And the next thing I'll say to you is, I've heard people talking about UKIP needs to be this, UKIP needs to be this. Gerard Batten needs to take this country back to the rule of law and the Constitution. He should do exactly what Trump has done, which is pick 5 of the greatest issues that are causing problems for everyone in this country. One of them, for example, is the crooked banking system.
Yes.
Yep.
Now, President Trump is already looking at it, and they look like they're going to take down the Federal Reserve. Now, we have got a window of opportunity to take this country back and take back control, but it needs to be done as a movement, not as a political party. So in other words, he needs to pick the 5 policies, exactly what Trump did, turn around and say to them, I'm not a politician. This is what we're going to do. This is what I'm promising you. This is my oath to you. And we will do it. End of.
Okay. Okay. On that line, one sec, Darrell. Truth Seeker, for example, is asking or saying Farage should head a 5-star type movement, Italy. Yeah. Maybe he could unite all the pro-Brexit parties together under one banner. Well, we know that 5-star now has become a political party, what have you, and they're in the coalition and all the rest of it. I mean, should we be looking at these guys getting behind, for example, I think Batten already is behind the UK freedom movement. It's a kind of a similar deal, isn't it?
Well, I think Gerard has very much been a part of that kind of movement which Graham's talking about, and I think he has started to define those 5 issues. For example, free speech. Another example is Islam, which is a threat to the rule of law, in its literal interpretation. Yeah, so he is starting to define.
Let me just say there, and I don't mean to interrupt or be rude. Let me say, in the Bill of Rights of 1688-89, which is in full effect.
Yep.
Yeah, the Queen also made a declaration on July the 20th of 1988 in the House of Commons to the Lords as well, that the Bill of Rights is in full effect, right?
Yeah.
In that document, it states that ecclesiastical courts and those of like nature are illegal and pernicious, right?
Yeah.
That means Sharia is unconstitutional and illegal in this country. That's it. End of. The rule of law says that is illegal. Get it out of this country. We're not interested.
One law, one common law for us all. Yeah, and Islam is a threat to that, as we've just talked about, because it establishes a separate legal system, as well as the cultural separation
we're
and all that.
supposed to have equality before the law. That should be absolute of paramount importance, I believe.
Well, yeah, and equality before law doesn't operate at the moment, because if you criticise Islam, you're guilty of hate speech. If you criticise Christianity, and there's a very funny film called Dogma, which is a complete critique of Christianity, or at least the church. That's fine, yeah. But if you criticise Islam, draw a nasty cartoon about Muhammad, that's hate speech. So that's not equality before the law, is it? I think we can all agree.
No,
on
it
that.
isn't.
And
it
Gerard
isn't.
has started to.
I mean, if you want to criticise Christianity, that's fine, but that is our culture. And I'll tell you another thing that really winds me up about politicians and things. They keep going on about saying we're a Judeo-Christian nation. No, we're bloody not. We're a pagan Christian nation. Pagan Christian. Judeo does not come into it. They've managed to worm their way into positions of power and influence. They are not part of this culture.
Well, that's a debate we can have, but the point is that there is a fundamental inequality in the law at the moment as applied, and Gerard is starting to articulate that and, pick up those 5 issues, I would say to Graham. Yeah, he's starting to define those themes, and it's early days, yeah? He's not been in the leader that long, yeah? And, in terms of what he's achieved, a lot of it has been focused on, nuts and bolts, getting the party, resurrecting it, essentially, from its, deadened position, yeah? But now we're starting to talk policy. That discussion is happening. Members are being encouraged to feedback on policy, and that debate is going to be ongoing. So we're entering the next phase of our development as a political party. So that will start to come out in this process, I think, to be honest.
I'll tell you what I thought about Darrell as an alternative, right? And I know it's going to sound weird, but why don't you just set up a government and do it in the true capital of England, which is Winchester? Get our culture back. We can win this by getting our culture back.
Thank you very much, that man. Thank you very much. That's exactly. We are the only country in Europe without its own parliament. England.
Yes, that's right.
England. We are under its attack.
Yeah.
City of London's not even a part of this country. It's not even a part of this realm.
Okay, you're stealing my next question, Jeff. Andrew Skelton on DLive is saying Farage is a City of London boy. Batten is one of the founder members of UKIP. How can we trust someone who is a freeman of the City of London? Farage.
I don't know if he is a freeman of the
city. Yeah, he is. He's a freeman of the City of London.
Right.
Does it matter?
If that's right, then I think that makes a big difference, because it's like,
nonetheless, he still delivered us that referendum.
With a name like Farage, hang on a sec, with a name like Farage as well, that's French, isn't it?
Oh, come on.
He's hang on, is he one of the Normans?
Aye. Okay. Look, we are fast running out of time, but I do want to take a few more comments. Kenneth Noel Gabriel Curran says, Druid rules, Brayan law, be wise, British, Welsh, Irish, Scottish, English, and so on and so forth. Thank you, sir. David Mortimer, converting the Aquis, the body of existing EU law into British law, ends the presumption of innocence. What this means for a person who is accused of a criminal offence is that they will be required by the state to prove their innocence instead of the state having to prove a person is guilty of a criminal offence and a court of law beyond a reasonable doubt. The public are treated completely differently by those two completely different opposing legal systems. 52% of the British public voted to leave the EU, and instead of repealing the European Communities Act 1972, which is the legislation which underpins the UK's EU membership, EEC at the time as it was, the government decided to trigger Article 50 instead, which lets the EU dictate our leaving terms. Absolutely, David Mortimer. That is very much what Gerard Batten talks about, isn't it? Lisa Whitney, Leslie, it doesn't tally up to facts. I don't know. That's a conversation within the comments. What is the 5 main things you think Gerard should support? Maureen Smith asks, very quickly, please, Darrell.
Well, free speech, we've already discussed. Dealing with the negative consequences of Islam, we've already discussed. Brexit is kind of a given in there, which, we've already discussed. I mean, I think in terms of other priorities, I think taking on the banks is definitely what I would personally advocate that he did. And the corporate power, matrix which controls our government and takes it away from the people, which is all linked in with the EU issue, of course. So that is.
Another one is we should leave the United Nations as well. I've nothing to do with it.
Well, attacking globalism, yeah, absolutely. United Nations is a ridiculous organisation, really. It's a pantomime. But there you go. But yeah, so Mo's got, yes, I agree.
Okay, all right. We've got Lynn Scott. Lynn Scott popped in too. Lynn, what would you like to say? We are running out of time. Go on, Lynn. What would you like to say?
It's okay. I just thought I'd come and keep Helen company.
Oh, Helen hasn't said nothing, bless her. I don't know if she's... Can you hear us, Helen? Yet again, another testosterone-fueled show. Oh, my God. I'll tell you what. We got to get more women on here.
Helen's got her ear.
I want to say a big cheers to my main guest tonight, Darrell Goodliffe, for popping in, and Jeff for backing Farage.
Always
I
a pleasure, Olly. Always a pleasure.
God bless you, mate.
Batten now, to be honest, after what I didn't know he was a free.
Well, you changed sides to Batten? Oh, mate, yeah, I'll tell you what, you'd be a useless debater in a society, wouldn't you? Can you imagine him in the Commons trying to argue his side? Thank God you're not on the negotiation. I'll tell you what, you should get in touch with that Ollie Robbins bloke. He'd love you to be on his side in the negotiation. Hi, you've been checking out Daily Chaos with me, Olly Connelly. I would like to thank very, very much Darrell and also Helen Lasky-Smith, who didn't say anything, bless her. Predator Jeff for taking Farage's side, but then doing a mutiny. Graham Moore. Lovely to have you on the show, mate. It's been a long time. And Lynn Scott.
Get well soon, Graham. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm going to go get some dinner.
Yeah, Daily Chaos, I'm Olly Connelly. Tomorrow at 7, I've got a chap coming in called Andy, who is going to tell us who is a victim to the whole UK endemic paedophilia situation in our care homes. He's going to be telling us how he has been fighting a battle for 30 years. Trying to get some justice, and how he has been turned down at every corner of the police intimidation and God knows what.
Ollie, can I just have a quick rant before we click off?
You've got 10 seconds.
Right, get England back. Winchester is our capital city. Right, we've got to own our own realm. Basically, the city of London is not ours. It's not our part of our country. Get our country back.
Look, folks, if you ever want to call in, please do, yeah. guv.li/rant, weekdays at 7. I'm forgetting something. What am I forgetting, Jeff?
Bugger plutocracy!
Here's to us! And bugger plutocracy, yeah? And for God's sake, stop paying for propaganda.
Alright. I'm going to get some dinner, guys. It's been a pleasure.
God bless you, mate.
Okay.
I'm going to get a pint. Mañana, people. God bless you.